If you ask several hardcore punk fans who the most influential bands of all time are, there would be a variety of responses. However, it is more than likely that Black Flag would be brought up several times, and rightfully so, as their first few EPs, as well as their debut full-length Damaged and their follow-up My War are considered to be influential to bands like Nirvana, The Melvins, Mudhoney, Slayer. The band's iconic Bars logo can be seen on Flea of the Red Hot Chili Peppers' bass. Black Flag are legendary. Without Black Flag, there would be no Rollins Band, Off, or Circle Jerks. The band has shared members with the likes of The Misfits, Danzig, and The Descendants. The band itself, though, has had numerous lineup changes between their inception as Panic in 1976 and the present day, with the only consistent member being their primary songwriter and guitarist, Greg Ginn. The band's current lineup consists of Isaiah Skill on drums, Joe Novo on bass, Mike Valley on vocals, and Ginn on guitar, with Gil and Nuval joining in 2019. Gil is a professional drummer from Houston, Texas, and has worked with artists such as Macy Gray and David Lee Roth. Nuval played bass for a band known as The Golden Grass, and Mike Valley of Tony Hawk's Underground fame and Black Flag's former manager took over vocals briefly in 2003 and mid-set in 2013. We'll get to that though. Over the years, Greg Ginn has developed a reputation of alienating his former bandmates, with the former frontman Ron Reyes, or Chavo Pederast, being kicked out of the band mid-set, a decision he went on to call a sigh of relief, going on to say that Greg Ginn ruled the 2013 incarnation of Black Flag with an iron fist, taking to Facebook saying, "On November 24th, 2013, the last night of the Australian Hits and Pits tour, with 2 songs left in the set, Mike V comes on stage, stares me down, takes my mic and says, 'You're done. Party's over. Get off. It's over.' He said something else to me, but it was a lie, so I won't repeat it here." So with a sense of great relief that it was finally over, I left the stage and walked to the hotel room. They finished the set with Mike V on vocals. There is much more that can and perhaps should be said, but for now, I will spare you the gory details. The writing was on the wall since before we played our first show. So many things went wrong from the start. I was into things like having a good drummer, rehearsing and spending time on things like beginnings and endings of songs, being a little less distracted with tour life and a little more on the ball. You know, things that would make our efforts worthy of the name Black Flag. Yes, it is in my opinion that we fell very short indeed, and the diminishing ticket sales and crowds are a testament to that. Yes, it is my opinion that we fell very short indeed, and the diminishing ticket sales and crowds are a testament to that. However, it was made clear to me that raising these issues was tantamount to a blasphemous stab in the back to Greg. How could I question him, his efforts and hard work? How could I dare be a fan of Off and or be friends and a fan of Flag? I was told that I had to choose sides, but I refused to treat someone like an infallible pope figure. No guitarist deserves such unquestioning blind devotion, and so I have been excommunicated in a very strange fashion. I truly feel sorry for anyone who has to witness the infantile behavior and relentless provocation I was subjected to, both on and off the stage. I regret that under such fierce provocation and taunting, I sometimes responded in manners below my standard. I am grateful for the opportunities Greg gave me. There were some magical moments at first. I was naive enough to believe in the promise of potential, but in the end, the good was no match for the overwhelming bad. I am proud of my contributions, including the new album and its cover. Come on folks, it's only rock and roll. I would not be surprised if Mike V becomes the new singer for Black Flag. It is in my opinion that they have planned this for some time. I wish them well. Mike is a true disciple of Greg, and so they have a good working relationship. And ironically, the tension over the last few weeks has brought out some of Greg's best playing, so it could be interesting. I will miss playing with Dave Klein. He is a great kid and a truly outstanding bass player. Dave was an anchor that kept me from losing my place on a nightly basis. Trust me, that was no easy task for either of us. I truly apologize for being in, or more accurately, appearing to be in competition with Flag. They know my heart on this matter. From the beginning, I was happy for them and fully supported and understood why they would want to rock those songs and have a good time with friends and family. Yes, I questioned the use of the name and logo, but in no way questioned their motivation or right to do their thing. I envy them for they succeeded in ways that were never possible with Black Flag. And once again, for the record, I agreed to do Black Flag before I knew there was a flag. I mean no malice towards Greg or Mike, although they will most likely see things very differently. I wish them luck and prosperity. I have learned many valuable lessons this year, and these lessons will enrich my personal and musical endeavors. Cheers, Ron Reyes. This wouldn't be the first time that Ron Reyes had left Black Flag. In the early 80s, he quit the band on stage, citing dissatisfaction with the violence in the punk scene as his reasoning. In the liner notes of Jealous Again, he is credited as chavo pederast, a semi-Spanish term that translates to kid pedophile. As a teenager, I remember being insanely hyped that Black Flag was back and touring again, as I had just began going to shows back in 2013. My high was only elevated when I found out that they were releasing new music, their first full-length release since 1985's In My Head. This high was quickly cut short following the release of the album artwork, which just looked off. Not only did it look low effort, but it was one of the only Black Flag album covers to not be done by Raymond Pettibon, or Raymond Ginn, Greg Ginn's brother. It was panned by critics and fans alike, with Michael Rothman of Consequences of Sound referring to it as, quote, cringeworthy, and pointing out how it's more telling than anything else, stating, "The album art is either a funny nod to 90s bumper stickers or a sign of how well of a relationship Ginn still has with his brother / former Black Flag artist Raymond Pettibon. Either way, yikes." I think Rothman was in a way correct, as Pettibon had done artwork for original Black Flag vocalist Keith Morris's hardcore punk supergroup Off on their projects, the first 4 EPs, their self-titled effort, and their most recent full-length 2014's Wasted Years, all taken place between 2012 and 2014, which leads to questions about why he wasn't commissioned to do the artwork for What The, and we were left instead with an unforgettable album cover. And I mean that in the worst way possible. But I mean, a bad album cover is never an indicator of how positively or negatively received an album will be. Just look at albums like Pet Sounds and the Magical Mystery Tour. Just because an album has a bad cover doesn't mean... never mind. So while Black Flag triumphantly returned in January of 2013, coincidentally, another group had announced that they will also be touring. In 2011, in honor of its 30th birthday, Southern California concert production company, Golden Voice Productions, hosted a series of shows, each one headlined by a local classic punk group, with one night being headlined by Social Distortion, night 2 being headlined by Bad Religion, and the final night headlined by The Descendants, as well as an announced, quote, special guest. And unlike Camp Flog Gnaw 2019, fan speculation was confirmed, and Black Flag were that night's special guests. With The Descendants' Stephen Egerton, Black Flag alumni Bill Stevenson, Chuck Dukowski, and Keith Morris took the stage, performing the iconic Nervous Breakdown EP in its entirety. Yes, all 5 minutes and 13 seconds of it. Unfortunately for the audience, that was it. Some people obviously started to boo, but that was because they wanted more than that. Keith Morris returned to the stage, stating that that was all they had time to rehearse. Fast forward to 2013. Due to the positive reception of the Golden Voice anniversary performance, this lineup announced that they would begin touring under the name Flag and play songs from all eras of Black Flag. Shortly after, it would be announced by Morris and Dukowski in an interview with Rolling Stone that former Black Flag guitarist and vocalist Des Cadena will be joining Flag, bringing the former Black Flag member count to 4. Funny to think that just a few years later, Flag will contain more members of Black Flag than Black Flag themselves. And when asked about the concurrent Black Flag reunion with Ginn and Reyes, Morris went on to state, "We heard varying rumors, which when it comes to Greg Ginn, there's some of us that could really care less. Normally, you don't talk like that about friends, but he's not a friend. So I could go down a list of people that have sued him and people that have not received royalties." Henry Rollins wrote a column for the LA Weekly, and he finally said, "Hey, how about some accounting?" In May of 2013, a month or two after Black Flag announced their own tour, Flag announced that they would tour that summer, coupled with a video of their first show as Flag. At the end of the video, a modified version of the iconic Bars logo was shown. And on top of that, Flag even had Raymond Pettibon design posters for their September 2013 US tour, while Black Flag had... The aforementioned show took place at the Moose Lodge Hall, 35 years after Black Flag played their first show there. They played several early Black Flag songs such as Nervous Breakdown, White Minority, Clocked In, Rise Above, and My War, with My War being filmed and uploaded to YouTube. And honestly, watching the video was kind of an experience, not only because you get to hear Keith Morris's iconic vocals on a Rollins era track, but it made me, the viewer, yearn to be there. And just out of curiosity, I looked up some live videos from around the same time from Black Flag, and something about them just seems different. I don't know if it's the video or the audience or because they were playing Can't Decide, which is not only a slightly lesser known Rollins era cut, but also a little bit more mellow, for lack of a better term, than My War. Also, I'm not a drummer or anything, but I agree with a lot of the comments saying that something about the drummer felt off, and this was later confirmed by Ron Reyes' previously shown Facebook statement. However, it did help in Flag's favor that their version of Rise Above had 2 guitars and Bill Stevenson on drums. What a time it was when 2 different iterations of Black Flag were touring with 2 vocalists from 2 important eras simultaneously. It's not like artists haven't done this before. There were acts like Jack Russell's Great White. This happened with Rat too, with Rat featuring Stephen Percy and later Bobby Blotzer's Rat experience, and the 2 different versions of the LA Guns. All of these examples could honestly be the topics of their own videos, but one thing all of these examples had in common were lawsuits. In August 2013, Greg Ginn, along with SST Records, submitted a trademark infringement suit against Morris, Dukowski, Stevenson, Cadena, and Egerton to the Los Angeles federal court, stating that they have infringed on the name of Black Flag and their iconic logo, referring to Flag as a colorable imitation, and that Flag is likely to cause confusion, mistake, or deception among consumers. Not only were Ginn and SST suing the members of Flag, but also star of the 1998 family film Jack Frost and Black Flag's 4th and longest lasting lead vocalist Henry Rollins, along with Keith Morris, stating, "The dispute over Black Flag is not motivated by an effort to stop anyone from covering Black Flag songs. Quite the contrary. This dispute began when Henry Garfield, or Rollins, and Keith Morris made an effort to hijack the name and the logo for their own use. Behind everyone's back in September 2012, Garfield and Morris filed fraudulent trademark applications in which they are claiming to own the name and the logo. Had we not taken action, this pair could have snuck these false applications through the trademark office, enabling them to stop Black Flag from playing and gaining exclusive use of the name and logo for themselves. We are also trying to stop Morris and the others in his band from using the name and logo in a misleading way and from selling bootleg items." Ginn's lawyer went on to elaborate on the claim of bootleg merchandise, stating that at some point during their tours, Flag began to sell merch with the unaltered Black Flag logo, and that was the deciding factor that led to the lawsuit, saying, "They forced us to do this because not only do we need to bring an opposition to the trademark application in the trademark office, but we also need to bring what's called a cancellation action for cancellation of the existing mark for the 4 bars. Then we found out that they're also selling bootleg t-shirts on the tour. They started using the actual bars, not the even bars, but the uneven bars. It's like they ratcheted up their usage of the Black Flag materials, and it came to the point to where we couldn't not sue them." Ginn's reasoning for suing Rollins and Morris was that they misled the trademark office by using album covers to pretend they've continuously used the Black Flag name since 1979. Ginn even accused Rollins and Morris of using bootleg SST shirts as evidence that they've been making products in that time frame. It's unclear where these claims come from, as any merch from Flag that I could find contained no imagery of the original Bars logo. However, Rollins and Morris did apply to register back in September of 2012. The logo mark was registered on April 30th, 2013. The application to register the name Black Flag was held up due to conflict with a Japanese company who owns a registration for Black Flag for clothing and other accessories. Finally, in October 2013, a federal judge denied the motion for preliminary injunction, basically stating that Ginn had not lost the lawsuit itself, and that it could still go to court. However, there was a very small chance of the claim actually holding up. But from that, a judge determined SST had no rights in the trademarks. Ginn seemed to have no individual rights in the Black Flag trademarks. Even if either had any rights in those marks, they had abandoned those rights through a failure to police the mark for nearly 30 years. The defendants claim that Black Flag assets were owned by a statutory partnership comprised of various former band members, even if these members only consisted of Henry and Ginn, based on A, accepting Ginn's argument that he never quit, and given that there is no evidence or allegation that Henry ever quit, has merit. Which, as a small aside, in Rollins' autobiography Get in the Van, he claimed that Ginn called him in August of 1986 and told him it's over. So, no, Rollins never technically, quote, quit Black Flag. Even if the plaintiffs had some trademark claim in the marks, there was no likelihood of consumer confusion between Black Flag and Flag, given the ample press coverage over the dispute. And the trademark application and registration that Henry and Keith made was done in good faith, and is thus not necessarily subject to cancellation, given that they understood their actions to have been done on the part of the Black Flag partnership. While the lawsuit was far from over, this ruling allowed both Black Flag and Flag to continue to tour simultaneously. The actual ruling was not made until April of 2014, where the settlement's details heavily favored Black Flag, establishing that the ownership of all the recordings of Black Flag, as well as all the rights in the Black Flag name and logo, were confirmed to Greg Ginn and SST Records. Henry Rollins and Keith Morris, who had attempted to register the Black Flag logo, aka the bars, with the U.S. Trademark Office, have conveyed any rights they had in that trademark to Greg Ginn and SST Records. And finally, Flag will seize use of the Black Flag logo. However, as of January 2019, there have still been show advertisements using the Even Bars logo that Flag showed in the My War video. So I'm not entirely sure what the lawsuit accomplished, other than Greg Ginn continuously being able to use his band's logo. It seems that with every long-standing band, there always seems to be one member that somehow alienates the rest of the original members, be it Jerry Only from the Misfits, Axl Rose of Guns N' Roses, or Ginn himself. The only difference being that both Guns N' Roses and the Misfits' original lineups have reunited in the past, with Guns N' Roses' original lineup reforming for the Not in This Lifetime tour, and the Misfits reforming in May of 2016. I'm not really sure if we'll ever get a true Black Flag reunion due to the revolving door of past members and conflicts between key members, but you never know what the future holds. Who knows, maybe Henry Rollins, Kira Wrestler, and Robo will form their own Ginnless version of Black Flag, and they'll call it, damn it!
$35 and a six-pack to my name.
Six-pack,
Spend the rest on beer, who's to blame?
six-pack,
They say I'm fucked up all the time.
six-pack.
What they do